Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Bookshelf. Today I'm here to do the mid-year book freakout tag, which I think it's been at least a couple years since I've done one of these. I'm gonna try to keep doing them while I'm still posting on this channel. I am doing like quarterly check-ins and stats videos starting this year because I wanted a little bit more details. Basically keeping a better record at various points throughout the year to see how things change. I cannot remember who the original creators of this tag video is because this has been floating around BookTube for quite a while now. If I can find who the original creators of this one is, I will link that. Starting right off, question number 1 is best book you've read so far this year. So the first one that I have here for best books that I've read so far this year is Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. This is a YA fantasy novel. I read this very early on. I think this might have been one of the first books I finished in January, and I just absolutely love this to the point where I went to try to order a special edition of this book. It never did show up, so maybe I have to like go searching on eBay to see if I can get it. But I love this one. Definitely got 5 stars for me, and I'm really excited for the sequel. So definitely one of my best books so far this year. And then the other book that I decided to choose out for best book of the year, which I know is best book, but I couldn't just go with one. But the other one is Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Austin. This was like what I needed when I was younger. This was amazing. I'm sure this is going to be in a lot of people's favorites of this year, but I'm so happy that I read it, and I am eagerly awaiting the sequel for this one as well. Moving on to question number 2, which is best sequel you've read so far this year. And I'm actually kind of shocked that I haven't read a whole lot of sequels this year. I think most of the books that I have read have been like starting series, or they might have been like companions, but they wouldn't technically count as sequels. So I decided to go with 2 books that were in the same series. That is Prince Freya Volume 2 and Volume 3 by Kiko Ishihara. These 2 were action-packed. Honestly, all 3 volumes, like the first 3 volumes, it was a lot going on consistently, and it was just amazing, and it was gripping, and I was just like, I need more. And if I had to, like I said, if I had to pick anything, it would definitely have to be these 2. I couldn't pick between the 3 or between these 2 because I literally read them back to back, and it's like one continuous story in my head. So that's why I picked both of these, but definitely the best sequels that I have read so far this year. Number 3 was new release you haven't read yet but want to, and this is one of the biggest sections that I had books selected for. So the first book that I wanted to talk about was Ace of Spades. I'm pretty sure that I've heard a lot of people say that it's more on the thriller side, so that isn't something that I typically go for, but I've heard that it's really good, so I definitely want to check that out. So the next one that I have is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. I actually got this one through Outcrate. Another one, which is one that I picked up but I never did finish, that was Wings of Ebony by JL. I actually DNF'd this one temporarily because I was not in the mood for this at the time. I'm hoping that it was just because I wasn't in the mood for it and not because I'm just not enjoying it. I've seen pretty mixed reviews on this one. Some people really love it, but I've also seen some pretty average reviews. So I'm still on the fence about it, but I do plan on picking this one up and trying it again. And then the last 2 that I have here are also ones that I got in Outcrate boxes, but that is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna, as well as Witches Steeped in Gold by Sianan Smart. Number 4 was most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And to be completely honest, I have not been keeping up with new releases lately. I do have 2 though. The first one is actually The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, or Helen Huang. This is like the 3rd book in the Kiss Quotient companion series. Pretty sure that this book was supposed to come out last year in 2020 but got pushed back. I'm really interested in that one. I am most definitely going to be doing another reread of the first 2 books in the series. It's set to come out at the end of August, like August 31st. And then the other book that is set to come out in September is Beasts of Prey by Ayana Gray. And this one is set to come out September... Oh no, I don't think the exact date is on here, but it is one that I'm going to be trying to read within the next couple months so that I can have it read before it comes out. Moving on to number 5, which was Biggest Disappointment. And I actually had 3 different books for this one. So the first one that I have to talk about is What Big Teeth by Rose Zaba. I read this one, I think, within the first few months of the year. I honestly don't remember exactly when it was, but I remember very strongly how I felt about this book. I think that the author tried to do too much with the story, so it was just kind of all over the place, and I was not really a fan. I think this was one of the only books that got 2 stars for me this year. I was really looking forward to this one because it had a really nice cover that really drew me in, and I think that was the case with a lot of people. But I think other people might have actually enjoyed it. It just was not for me. Another disappointment for this year was Check Please Book 1 by Ngozi Ukazu. This one is a graphic novel comic. I'm not really sure which category it would fall in. It's basically like he has a YouTube channel or some type of social media video platform type of thing, and he is talking about baking and his life in college. And it's just like very small snippets of his life and not like a full storyline. I think there are a few times in the first volume where we kind of see his life outside of the camera, but most of it is focusing, like he comes in, he's like, okay, this is what happened, this is what happened, I baked this, and that's it. I like reading a story that has like a continuous flow, and this was very start, stop, and that's just not my type of thing. It was just one of those things that it wasn't my personal style. And the final book that I have in this section, which I honestly debated having or adding to the section because I didn't really have any expectations going into this, because I really hadn't even heard of it before I got it in an Outcry box. That is Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy, and this is another YA fantasy. This one, it was a lot of me not caring about the majority of the story that was being told. This is one of those stories that has 3 perspectives, and I honestly only cared about one of them. And we get very little of that one perspective that I wanted to read about, so I just didn't really care for everything else. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst, because I think it ended up getting 3 stars when I put it through Callpal. So obviously it wasn't completely terrible. But if I was rating this on just like personal enjoyment on its own, it would have gotten 2 stars for me, which sucks. But it is what it is. Okay, now moving on into hopefully a better topic, and that is biggest surprises so far of this year. And once again, I have 3 of those, which I feel like all 3 of these are very different. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Orient Volume 1 by Shinobu Otaka. And this is one of the mangas that I got in, I think, the very first Manga Spice Cafe box that I received. I went into this thinking like, oh, I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm not going to like love it or anything. And I came out so shocked, I think, because like I kind of knew what was going to happen, but by the end of this, it took a completely different turn than I was expecting. Or maybe not a completely different turn, but it was like kicked up several notches than what I was expecting to happen. The next one is actually another manga, and this one I talked about more recently, and that is A School Frozen in Time, Volume 1 by Mizuki Sugimura. I was expecting this to be more of a sad contemporary, after reading the description, and maybe a little bit of paranormal aspects to it, but this quickly turned into more thriller bordering on horror, And I'm just like, I need to know what the heck is going on and how all of these students are going to survive, or if they're going to survive by the end of this. Like, is everyone just going to get killed off and that's just going to be end of it? Like, I don't know exactly how this is going to go. The final one that I have to talk about underneath the biggest surprise is The Electric Kingdom by David Arnold. This is one of those books that I'm pretty sure that I haven't really seen too many people reading or talking about, but it's one of those books that I think is really good. It's one of those books that comes around full circle, and like by the end of it, of course, all of it makes sense, but then at the same time it's like, does it really make sense? This one made a huge impact, and it was just like one of those subtle things. It wasn't like bam bam is all this action going on, but it was enough to keep me thinking. I don't know. It was good. And I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this, which is why it made it onto this list. Number 7 is favorite new author, and this could be either debut or new to you. This one really stuck out. I only read one thing from the author, and I was just like, you have my interest all the way, and I need more. And that is the author of Solo Leveling Volume 1, which is Chu Gong. And just based off of this, and having such little information about what's actually going on in the story, this caught my interest so much. And it's one of those things that I felt like I picked up at the exact right time, and I can definitely see myself immediately ordering, if not pre-ordering, everything that this author puts out, at least as far as like graphic work. So far I've only read this one thing, but definitely can tell that this is going to be a new favorite author of mine. I'm sure it'll be others on this list, but I'm trying to give it at least a couple more books before I fully decide, even though I didn't do that with this one. Number 8 is newest fictional crush, and basically I haven't had a new fictional crush in a while. I just enjoy seeing them with whatever character that they're meant to be within the book that I'm reading. Number 9 is newest favorite character. These were a little bit harder for me to choose because I was just like, I have no clue. No specific character that I haven't already read or talked about has really stuck out to me that much. But the one I decided to go with was Akira Tendo from Zom 100 by Haro Aso and art by Kotaro Takada. And the reason I decided to go with Akira was because no matter what, at least for the majority of this volume, when the zombie apocalypse broke out, he decided to take advantage of the situation that he was in and be the happiest that he can be and like complete this bucket list that he created. So despite the situation he was in, he decided to make the most of it, and for that reason alone I decided to make him newest favorite character. Number 10 is a book that made you cry, and I do not believe that I have cried at any book this year. If I did, I'm completely blanking on whatever it was, but the one I think that made me come the closest to crying is The Golden Sheep Volume 1 by Kaori Ozaki. This one has a scene where one of her characters attempts suicide, and is really emotional because the girl on the cover actually ends up seeing him in the process of this and kind of stops him from doing that. So it was a really emotional scene. I don't think I actually cried, but I think I came really close to it. So that's what I'm going to go with for that. Number 11 is a book that made you happy, and for this one I have actually four options. I don't know. Let's just go through them. The first one that I have to talk about is Blood Air by Alona Andrews. And the reason why I decided to go with this one is because I was super happy to be back in the world, even though so much had changed since the final book in the original Kate Daniels series. The next one that I have to talk about, I think I had only listed one, but I'm going to just talk about both of them anyway. And that's both volumes 5 and volume 6 of Sweat and Soap by Kentetsu Yamada. I just really enjoy reading about these two characters and their progression and their love lives. It just really makes me happy and smile every time I read one of these volumes. So this definitely counts as books that make me happy. And going along the same lines as that is Heartstopper Volume 1 and 2 by Alice Oseman. Reading both of these, I was super happy. There were some moments that weren't as great, but overall I was super happy when reading both of these. I thought once again that this couple was really cute and them coming together was adorable. Number 12 is the most beautiful book you purchased or received this year, and for this one I decided to go with The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. Okay, so finally number 13 is what books do you need to read by the end of the year. I could say a whole bunch of books honestly, but I decided for this section I would keep it semi-short and mainly just go with the rest of the books that were on my 12 must reads of the year. If you haven't checked that one out, I will make sure to link that so you guys can go back and check out all of the books that I set for myself to read by the end of the year. The first one that I have, and the only one that I actually have a physical copy with me now, is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, which this one is technically not a necessity anymore because for this option I was like, I just wanted to read an N.K. Jemisin book, and it was either between this one and The 100,000 Kingdoms. I have actually already read The 100,000 Kingdoms, so I don't technically need to read this one, but I would like to also get this one read this year because I have it, and why not? The next one is Cinder by Marissa Mayer, I'm pretty sure. The next one that I have is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, which is the first book in one of her series. The next one is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, which is, I think all of these are like the start of series except for maybe one. The next one is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. The second to last one is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, which is that big like 800-page book that came out I think a couple years ago that has to do with dragons. And then the final one is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. Those were all the questions or prompts for the mid-year book freakout tag. It's a lot. I feel like it's way more than I thought going into it. I made the list and I was just like, oh, it kind of seems like a lot, but at the same time it doesn't, because it's only a list of 13 things, but most of the books, or most of the prompts, I had multiple books listed. That's all I have for this one. So let me know down in the comments, what are some of your most anticipated books for the second half of the year. Like I said, I have not been keeping up, so I would really like to know what some of the books that you're looking forward to are. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more from me, make sure you subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye.